A very big welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Abigail and I am a mum, a wife and a nurse manager. My channel is going to be about nursing, health, lifestyle, motherhood, vlogs and more. On today's video, I'm going to talk about how I went from being a healthcare assistant to registered nurse to nurse manager. If that sounds like something that you might be interested in, stay tuned. Oh yeah, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. So welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about how I went from being a healthcare assistant to registered nurse to nurse manager. So I started off by enrolling in a pre-nursing course that was a year long. The course consisted of 12 modules. Also, as part of the course, I was required to independently source clinical placement, which meant that I had to find the placement myself. It was very difficult at the time, but I found it in the end. It only took me about 2 months, but I found it. Just a tip for anyone that might be doing a pre-nursing course now, or perhaps doing the short course in social care studies, don't minimize your niche by just applying to nursing homes. At the time when I was doing the pre-nursing course, I didn't realize that I could also apply to hospitals. I guess I just felt that hospitals are such big organizations and assumed that they were probably already preoccupied with general nursing students, psychiatry nursing students, and students studying to be doctors. So I didn't apply. I didn't realize I could apply. I didn't realize they would take pre-nursing students on for placement, but they definitely do. By not applying to hospitals at the time, I immediately reduced my niche for finding clinical placement. It made things very, very tough for me at the time, but I found placement in the end. I actually found placement in a nursing home in a small town where I went to secondary school. So I started my clinical placement in the nursing home, which lasted 12 weeks long. I was very enthusiastic with my work. When I would shadow the nurses, I would ask questions about the drug rounds. I would ask questions about the different routes of administration, of medication and so on. When I was shadowing the care assistants, I would ask questions like how to use the standing hoist or the full body hoist, or how they went about planning their shift or planning their day and getting residents ready for the day and things like that. I was the type of person that just wanted to get stuck into the work. I would ask so many questions. Of course, I had lots of questions to ask. It was an unfamiliar setting and I was new to the area, so of course I would have a lot of questions to ask. Anyway, on completion of the clinical placement, I was approached by the manager of the nursing home and offered a job to stay on as a care assistant. Not only that, but she was willing to work around my curriculum being a student. Wow. I only came here looking for clinical placement. I wasn't looking for a job, but I took it. I was delighted with myself and I took the job. It was amazing. It was an amazing opportunity and it played a huge role in my life at the time. Just a tip for anyone or perhaps a healthcare assistant that's aspiring to be a nurse. I think it's important that you're enthusiastic about the role that you're working in now and ask questions about different self-development opportunities that's available in your organization. Talk to the senior carers that you're working with, talk to the nurses that you're working with, talk to the managers in your organization and avail of any kind of self-development opportunities that are available within your organization. I think it's very important to focus on self-development. The reason I say that is in the future, if you go to your organization looking for support to get through the nursing degree program, it may be the difference between you and another person or perhaps another carer when your organization have to decide on who they would like to support through the nursing degree program. And you may very well have to get reference from management in the area that you're working in. So on completion of the pre-nursing course and clinical placement, I got distinctions in all 12 modules that I was enrolled in. Kudos to me. Okay, so jokes apart, that had nothing to do with being smart, nor did it have anything to do with being intelligent. It was pure strategy. So my strategy was a combination of things. Firstly, I told myself that the course was really only 8 or 9 months long and not really a year. When you take away all the holidays that are involved in the school year, it's really only 8 or 9 months long. So I told myself that all I would have to do was just sacrifice 8 or 9 months of the year. My next strategy was with modules like biology, human growth and development, anatomy and physiology, and nutrition. Modules like that, I found that I had to have an understanding of it in order to be able to sit an exam about those topics or those subjects or modules perhaps. So what I did was every day that I had any of those modules, I would go home in the evening and go over whatever I learned that day. When the weekend came, I would go over what I learned that week. When the end of the month came, I would go over what I learned for that month and so on. So by the end of the first semester, when it was time to sit the exams, it was very easy for me to go back and study. In fact, I wouldn't even call it studying. I kind of went over what I already know because of the way I had strategically planned out the semester, and it worked very well for me. I did the same thing with the second semester, and it also worked very well for me, and that's how I ended up with the results that I got. So I used those results and applied for university via the CAO system. For anyone that doesn't know what the CAO system is, it's a system used in Ireland to apply for courses in colleges of further education or higher education, i.e. university. It would be the equivalent of the UCAS system in the UK. So moving on, I got accepted into college in Galway, which is in the west of Ireland, 2.5 hours away from home. I was very emotional about it, but I knew that I had to go and study because I didn't want to not have a qualification. So that's how I got enrolled into the 4-year nursing degree program. I found the course to be very intense, both the clinical aspect and the theory aspect. With the theory aspect, a different level of writing was expected from you. Not only that, you had to learn how to reference properly. The university at the time used Harvard style of referencing, and there are different variations of Harvard style of referencing. This level of writing would have been something that was unfamiliar to me with the pre-nursing course or secondary school. It was a new style of writing and a higher level of expectation. Just for anyone that may be struggling, remember to use and maximize your resources. You have resources all around you. Make use of them. Talk to the other students in your course and ask them how they're getting on. Sometimes it can be reassuring to know that you're not in it on your own and you're all in the same boat. Also make use of the college librarian. It's all well and good to be handed a book that guides you on referencing styles and stuff like that. But remember that you can also talk to the college librarian. That's what they're there for. Sometimes you just need a human being to talk to you and kind of guide you through certain things that you may not understand properly from reading the guidance. So remember that your college librarian is there. And I also had the manager from the nursing home where I had previously completed clinical placement, and I used her as a resource as well and asked her for help with my writing styles and help with my assignments really. So always maximize and use your resources. The clinical aspect of the course was also very intense. Just remember not to do anything that you're not comfortable doing, and don't do anything that you don't know how to do. Communication is key while you're in clinical placement. Always interact with the nurses, always interact with the healthcare assistant, interact with allied health professionals as well, and just try to amass knowledge. But just remember that when you leave work, you leave your work at work. Go home and relax. I know it's easier said than done, but try to leave work at work because placement can be very draining. Go home, talk to your family, talk to your friends, try and distract yourself from the busy day that you've just had. Like I said, it's not easy, but that's how I got through it. Bear in mind that I was travelling back to Dublin on a 2.5 hour journey to work as a healthcare assistant in the nursing home. And I did that for the 4 years. It was very intense for me. Anyway, I completed the 4-year degree program and I was officially a registered nurse. So then came the time to apply for a job. I applied for a job in the hospital that I trained in Galway, and I also applied for a job in a big hospital in Dublin. I was offered an interview in both hospitals on the same day. I was super nervous, super anxious. I had no experience whatsoever with interviews. Remember that even for my clinical placement in the nursing home, I didn't attend an interview. I went for an informal chat. So this was completely new to me and I was so nervous. I was super nervous. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to expect. My heart was in my mouth. Again, I had to use and maximize my resources. I spoke to my CPC at the time. CPC stands for Clinical Placement Coordinator, and that is the title given to the nurse that organizes clinical placements for students at various clinical sites. So anyway, my first interview was for the hospital that I trained in Galway. I went in for the interview and I was asked about 7 or 8 questions. I found it very difficult and I was so nervous. I couldn't think, I couldn't breathe. It was all just very daunting for me. The interview came to an end and I was very disappointed in myself. I was so hard on myself, and I'm the kind of person that really, when I go for something or I aspire to do something, I have to get it to a T and nothing else. Nothing else is good enough. I was so hard on myself, and that's something I think over the years that I've kind of learned to kind of work on. I really beat myself up about it. I was just disappointed. There's no other word for it. I remember sitting in the canteen for about half an hour and I went and bought a chicken roll to calm myself down. But anyway, I had to quickly recuperate and get myself back together and prepare myself for the second interview in the afternoon in Dublin. I just tried to remember all the advice that I was given to prepare for my interviews, and I used the little bit of knowledge that I had gained from the interview from Galway. So then came interview number 2, and I was really happy with how it went. I was then offered a job in both hospitals, and I had to pick Galway or Dublin. Guess which one I chose? I chose Dublin. That's where my family was, that's where my friends were. Galway is a brilliant city. It's a beautiful place to go. It's a beautiful place to live. I was just very young at the time and I was a home bird, so I didn't want to be away from home, and that's why I found it difficult. Other than that, Galway is a brilliant city. So I started off in haematology and oncology day ward, and I basically shadowed the nurses for a while. And I basically learned the ropes, learned the basics, and I was really paying attention to the nurses that I was working with and paying attention to my seniors, and I started to focus on self-development. Self-development is huge. Self-development is key to career progression, and I was just paying attention to all my seniors and all the nurses around me and trying to better myself. Any opportunities that came my way, I really availed of it. I did a short course in cancer care. I did a short course in haematology. Any courses that were available and relevant, I definitely availed of it. And it was all part of self-development and trying to better myself. I then enrolled in a postgraduate diploma for cancer care and haematology, as that was relevant to the clinical area that I was working in. And again, this was all part of self-development. When the opportunity came, I landed a role as a manager on an IT project that the hospital was introducing. I worked in that role for almost a year, and I amassed knowledge from the IT side of the hospital. Even in that role, I continued to focus on self-development and continued to enroll myself in courses. I actually did my master's degree in cancer care and haematology while in that role as a manager in that IT project. And then another opportunity came and I landed a role as a nurse manager on a clinical area. So that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to leave comments in the comment section below. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I will be posting videos on a weekly basis. I will also have more videos that expand on topics like career progression and what life was like being a student nurse. Oh, and if you haven't already done so, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. See you next week.